What's good, everybody? Welcome into Early Edge Live as we count down to all of the 1 o'clock games today, all of the 4 o'clock games, all 2 of them today. Of course, this is the Early Edge, your daily sports betting brand of record. We are powered, as you see, by the almighty SportsLine, the best value in all of sports betting, and it is not close. Now, if you tailed us, as many of you do, thank you so very much for taking the time. But, last Sunday we absolutely killed it. 28-10, 29-10, something like that. And we are going to do it again this week. Now, let's bring in the stars of the show because I have the absolute best NFL minds that there is. Now, you notice we're missing a face. The maestro. If you're in the Big Easy and you're at Harris, stop by and say hello to him and Emery Hunt as they dazzle everybody on CBS Sports HQ. But I've got more than what I need right here. Ladies and gentlemen, let's start with the man who is the most handsome man in all of the Early Edge universe. See you in the job. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I'm so excited. Coach, every time we do this show, I'm in that place where we're about to find out what happens with the prop bets. We're about to find out what happens with my bets against the spread in DFS, all of those things. And you add to that this show, it actually kind of offsets the anxiousness, the anxiety that I have because I have so much fun doing this show. So let's get after it. I can't wait to talk about every single game.
I know we say it all the time, but this is truly what we all love to do more than anything else. Now, this is how much, and this is not a criticism of prop stars, but this is how much he's in the lab. This is how much he is focused on NFL props. I said to him just a few minutes ago, I said, man, Brian Kelly's become a legend at LSU. He looks at me and goes, what happened? Didn't even know what happened last night in Baton Rouge. Legend, savage, from parts unknown. Prop stars. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Coach. That's 100% a true story, by the way. And yeah, I had no idea what happened in college football last night, but that doesn't matter, Coach, because it's Sunday morning in parts unknown, Sunday afternoon on the East Coast. I am so pumped up. I live for Sundays, Coach.
You're damn right you do. We have the best team in the business. As Christian said in the chat, the morning show was great. Ready for another. Well, you're damn right we are. So let's jump right into it. 8 games at 1 o'clock. And we start with the Chargers and the Falcons. And gentlemen, as a brand, we have no plays on this game. But the Chargers coming off an off week. They're laying 3 on the road against division-leading Falcons. Total 49.5. Sia, let's start with you. Why don't we have any plays on this game?
Well, there's a bit of an unknown, especially on the Chargers side. I mean, first of all, on the Falcons side, there's always an unknown, right? We have Patterson coming back. Even when Patterson was gone, we didn't exactly know how that running back core was going to shake out from a prop standpoint in terms of measuring yards and things of that nature. The receivers don't get a lot of work. You got Kyle Pitts, you got Drake London, you sometimes got Damiere Byrd and some other pieces there. So I just think we don't really know on that side. And with the Chargers, they're coming off a bye and Eckler is going to be a big tool in this game, and that's why his props are kind of high because we don't have Mike Williams. We don't have Keenan Allen. It's going to be the Josh Palmer, Gerald Everett, Austin Eckler show, and the props reflect that. So in this particular case, we don't have much of an edge, or at least I don't think we have much of an edge from a prop standpoint. But I do kind of, now that this line is coming down, I got to say, I kind of like the Chargers -2.5 coming off that bye. I think that part of it is really important because let's remember, they were anticipating Mike Williams and Keenan Allen not playing. It's not like it's a surprise. It's not like 2 weeks ago they were game planning, or a week and a half ago, they were game planning with those guys in mind. So I think they understand how to handle the Falcons. And frankly, the Falcons coming off a very interesting, big, emotional win. They might be in a tough spot here, but both teams should be able to move the ball quite well.
Atlanta has been a covering machine so far this year. I believe only once they haven't covered the spread. At SportsLine, we have several picks, though, in this game. We tell you all the time, it's more than just the early edge picks. We got so many cappers. RJ White's on the over. That's what I'm on as well. Currently, it's gone up a point to 49.5. The Atlanta defense, the last 2 weeks, which includes playing the Panthers, have given up over 1,000 yards of offense. And they scored 33 against that Panthers defense last week. So this would be my best bet for this game is play to the over. Now, from a prop perspective, Alex, as Sia just alluded to, there's a lot of things up in the air. Did you see anything in the lab that kind of piqued your interest?
Yeah, this is a really intriguing matchup for a number of reasons, Coach. It's kind of a strength versus weakness sort of thing. When you're looking at Atlanta's offense, they run the football as much as any team in the NFL. They're also as effective at running the football as any team in the NFL, going against a Chargers rush defense that has really, really struggled. So I think we know what Atlanta is going to do. We're going to see all three of those backs, as Sia mentioned, Cordell Patterson's returning to the lineup today. We're going to see three of those backs rotate. Mariota also likes to run a lot as well. And again, the Falcons have been very effective doing so, almost to the detriment of a passing offense. It's tough for me to watch when we have Kyle Pitts and Drake London, two elite prospects, and have flashed absolute brilliance when they've been on the field, but we're just looking at one of the lowest volume passing attacks in the NFL. And then on the other side, it's a little bit of an unknown as far as the Los Angeles Chargers go. They're going to be without Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. We've seen Josh Palmer fill in, but he's largely been ineffective. I do like DeAndre Carter a bit. I expect him to get a decent amount of volume over the middle of the field. Also like Gerald Everett. Obviously, Austin Eckler is going to be the focal point of the game plan. I kind of like his touchdown, anytime touchdown props. I sprinkled a little bit on 2. Had to go back to the well, Coach, on 3 touchdowns for Austin Eckler. Just a nod and tip of the cap to him. So those are the props I'm looking at as far as Chargers props go.
And by the way, that actually hit a few weeks ago at plus 2,500 live right here on the early edge. By the way, AB is producing the show. He'll try to get into the chat if he can, but it's very, very difficult to produce and answer questions as well. So we'll try to get to as many as we can. See, I have one coming to you, but I got to go right back to Alex first. Because, Alex, you started a monster a few weeks ago because certain books have quarterback against quarterback as far as passing yards are concerned. Chat question, Fields against Mariota. What do you like?
I actually prefer Fields here in this spot. I've been encouraged by Fields' development as a passer week to week to week. Also, Chase Claypool being added to the offense. I don't expect him to have a full-time role today, but I do expect him to kind of take the pressure off some of the other guys in that offense. So I'd give a slight lean to Fields just because I feel he's going to air the ball out a bit more. Plus, Miami's pass defense is very soft.
Right, hey, Coach, if I can add, sorry about that. I really like Justin Fields in daily fantasy as well because he's only 5,300. And to Alex's point, we've seen him drop back a lot more and complete some passes, of course, but we've also seen a rushing floor from him. So there's a lot of popular quarterbacks on this DFS slate, and they're popular for good reason. You go to Aaron Rodgers, you go all the way up to Josh Allen, Kyler Murray, Geno Smith. There's more where that came from, Justin Herbert. But at 5,300, Justin Fields presents a really, really good value. It allows you to get some of those high-end running backs or receivers in that should be popular on this slate, but aren't because people aren't paying down. Yeah, no doubt about it. And it kind of fits into the sweet spot because the Bears are now scoring a lot of points. They're moving the ball, but they're behind the entire game. So that's right. A perfect scenario, am I right, for fantasy and for props, right, guys? Yes?
100%. Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, so let's feed right into that Bears game then. The Dolphins are laying 4 on the road in Chicago. Brand new turf, though. So Waddle and Tyreek Hill, they should be fine with their footing. The total 45.5. Uncle Dave is on Justin Fields over 48.5 rush yards. You can still get that number in a lot of places. I got it at 47 about 10 minutes ago. And then Sia, you're on what prop in this game? Yeah, I like Darnell Mooney. I mean, we just talked about it, Coach. You alluded to Justin Fields in a negative game script, and that's why I like a lot of pieces in this game, namely Justin Fields and Darnell Mooney. For the record, Justin Fields' prop for completions is 14.5, but give me Darnell Mooney over 42.5 receiving yards. He's surpassed this total in 5 games in a row and now likely faces that negative game script that we just referenced. I really like Speaking of the negative game script, let's not forget that Chicago kind of sold off a lot of their parts on defense. So Miami shouldn't have too much of a problem, whether it's through the run or through the pass, matriculating the ball downfield. That's more targets for Darnell Mooney. 42.5 is a pretty low number, actually. I think he's going to surpass this quite easily. I agree with that, and I think that's going to lead to what my best bet would be in this game. If you're asking me, you're not, but I'll tell you anyway. I love the over in this game. The Dolphins have been an absolute over machine. We forget about the fact they're not stopping anybody, and nobody is stopping them. Last week, the Bears scored 29 against the Cowboys, gave up 49. I can see that same type of scenario here today. But, Alex, as I come to you, when you look at all of these props, we're on Tyreek Hill in this game, his over from the morning show. M squared is on that one. Do you see any other weapons that could have a really big day today?
Two I'll touch on quickly, Coach. I'm going back to the well. Been with this guy pretty much every week this season. Jalen Waddle. I love this guy. He's just it's another day, Coach. Another Waddle. Listen, this guy's just not getting the respect he deserves. Yes, Tyreek is absolutely phenomenal, probably having the best year of any offensive player in the NFL. Jalen Waddle is not far behind, in my opinion. When he is playing alongside Tua, when Tua is on the field with him, he is this season. He's averaging over 107 receiving yards per game. His metrics just are off the charts good. 2.74 yards per route run, 11.9 yards per target. That is unbelievable. He leads the NFL in 30-yard receptions this season. The Dolphins have also proven that their entire offense funnels through these two guys. They can support both Tyreek and Jalen Waddle, both having huge games and going over their props. I also love this for Waddle because Chicago really lacks the ability to pressure opposing quarterbacks. You give Tua enough time, he's going to find Waddle and Tyreek Hill. Also, what I love about Waddle, and the reason I keep going back to him, is because we keep getting his receiving line under 70 yards. In my opinion, that is 10 yards off from where it should be. It's 20 yards fewer than Tyreek Hill. So I think Jalen Waddle under 70 yards is just a tremendous value, Coach. So I absolutely love him. On the other side of the field, I really love what I've seen from Khalil Herbert. He has just been phenomenal running the football. If you look at all the metrics that I love to look at, he's just been off the charts good, clearly outplaying David Montgomery. And the stats reflect that as well. He's starting to get more and more touches as well. It is a tough matchup against the Dolphins, but his rushing yards is only 37.5 yards. That's too low in my opinion. So really like what I've seen from the young running back for Chicago. I expect him to continue to get 12 to 14 touches in that backfield. So I like him quite a bit as well, Coach.
Couple of chat questions on this game. I'll go to C and then come right back to Alex. David Montgomery, his number, you just heard Alex mention his name, is 15.5 receiving yards, and it's juiced heavy to the under, Sia.
Yeah, that's, again, one of those receiving yard running back props where it can be, according to Alex and according to conventional wisdom at this point, it can be a little gimmicky. I do like the under there, but it's just not something I want to touch. In fact, whether it comes to rushing and receiving for Montgomery or Khalil Herbert, because we're not exactly sure what Khalil Herbert's role is going to be, he's highly efficient. I think those props, there's too much uncertainty, and I'd like to stay away from both of those guys this week at least.
Okay. Now, my man Eric says Prop Stars is the chip of the NFL team. Of course, we're talking about Chip Patterson from Big Pick Energy Friday on the early edge. Now, you mentioned Chase Claypool. Now, I'm assuming this number is his receiving prop. It could be a longest reception prop, too. Over 25.5, Alex. And we know this is his first game, new offense, just got traded. And usually they ease guys in like Christian McCaffrey out west and then really get going in game number 2. What do you think about Claypool today?
I lean over on. I've always been kind of really high on Chase Claypool as a talent. I didn't think that he was getting the necessary usage that he deserved in Pittsburgh. But again, being that it's his first week, he's only had a few days to learn the playbook. We've seen Coach come out and say that he's only going to have maybe be on the field for between 10 and 30 snaps. I'm staying away, just not knowing what his role is. But at the same time, it's so low. I think he's got a pretty good chance to go over.
And of course, I'm dialed in. Of course, I know that he's going to be on 10 to. Oh, not this coach. The coach. Oh, gotcha. My bad. All right, that's game number 2 at 1:00 today. I think it's going to be a shootout. I think it's so. If I was to give two best bets, it'd be the over on the Chargers and Falcons, and over on the Dolphins and the Bears. Now, this next game, very interesting, gentlemen. Panthers. They've looked really good on both sides of the ball. Well, in the last 2 weeks, they gave up 33 last week, or 30, whatever it was. It was a lot. But P.J. Walker is now starting to play some viable NFL quarterbacks. So the Bengals are laying 7. This number is going to go back and forth from 6.5 to 7. The total sitting at 42.5. Uncle Dave is on P.J. Walker over 184.5 passing yards. Sia, let's start with you. The way the Panthers have played lately, and the fact that they're all buying in for their new coach, I kind of like the Panthers the way the Bengals looked against the Browns. What say you?
I agree. First of all, I didn't really like the Bengals against the Browns. I kind of thought they'd look a little bit like that, given my Browns plus 3.5. I don't think it's a surprise. First of all, there's a couple things going on with the Bengals. Without Jamar Chase, it's just not as dynamic of an offense. I mean, it's just such an obvious point, but I think it's a point people miss. I think they think, well, Chase is out. Okay, just input Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins, and we're back to normal. Like, it's definitely not like that, and they just haven't been efficient across the season so far. They've had some good games, some pop games, but overall they haven't been efficient with the running game and most of the time with the passing game. Add to that, on the defensive side, they have so many injuries, particularly in the secondary. They also have defensive line injuries, but the secondary is really banged up. And no matter what you think about PJ Walker, with DJ Moore, Terrace Marshall, Deontay Foreman running the ball well, 7's a big spread. I mean, yeah, the Bengals could cover, but if I'm putting money down on this one, it's the Panthers plus 7.
No doubt. And I think I'm going to end at something right here, right now. Ryan, no disrespect to you. You're asking about Deontay Foreman over 8.5 receiving yards. Here at this show, my guys, we don't like running back receiving props. They're too volatile. As Sia said, they're gimmicky, and we just stay away from those. We really do. We don't mind rushing props, but the receiving props, especially when they're like that, they're begging you to play something, and we choose not to. All right, now let me come to you, Alex, because without Jamar Chase, Higgins and Boyd have to step up. Now, against Cleveland, they were never able to get going. This game is at home, though. Do you think that's going to make a difference?
Yeah, I think we'll see a better Bengals offense. I just cannot emphasize enough the impact of losing Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase is the most double-teamed wide receiver in the NFL since he stepped foot into the league. So that type of attention just trickles down so much. You just give so many advantageous matchups to a Tyler Boyd, to a T. Higgins. Suddenly you take him off the field. Not only do you lose his production, but you lose those advantageous matchups when you get T. Higgins lined up one-on-one, or you have Tyler Boyd, against just a nickel corner. So suddenly the defense is able to pay a lot more attention to these other guys. So I think that Cincinnati's going to struggle, especially if they're not able to establish the run in this game. I do think it is an opportunity for Joe Mixon to get a decent amount of volume in this game, and I actually like some of his props. But I do anticipate Cincinnati continuing to have trouble moving the ball, even against this Panthers defense. It's been average-ish, but yeah, just this loss of Jamar Chase, I feel like, is just massive, just far beyond just his individual production as well, Coach.
I see. I want to see if you agree with Alex, because the combo prop for Mixon is 93.5. Then chat question, his rushing prop is 67.5, minus 115 currently.
Ooh, that's a tough one. It's a stay away for me. I don't mind. Yeah, it would be the under on both of those, to be honest with you, if I was going to take it. But I'm not going to take that. I do think Mixon is going to get a lot of work. I'm just curious how efficient he's going to be. So I'm off both of those.
All right, Alex, go.
Coach, again, you alluded to me. I always preach against running back reception props. The one exception, though, are when guys have a high target floor. We're looking at guys like Austin Eckler, Christian McCaffrey, the type of guys that you can count on 5 to 7 targets per game, plus they have designed plays. Joe Mixon is actually creeping into that category. I believe he had 9 targets in the last game, and he was just leaned on very heavily because we just saw with this offensive line, Joe Burrow just doesn't have a lot of time. He's looking to Joe Mixon. I also think Carolina can get after him. I just think this Bengals offensive line just really struggles in pass protection. So I actually like Joe Mixon's volume-based props, which are his receptions line. I think the yards is playable around 21, 22.5, but I like his receptions line at 3.5, just in this particular matchup without Jamar Chase on the field. I just think Burrow's going to have to get rid of the ball very quickly, and Mixon's going to benefit from that, Coach.
Every time I think I can't learn something else from you guys, you continue to educate and entertain. By the way, Jay says in the chat, me erasing my question about Antonio Gibson receiving yards. That's pretty funny. That's pretty funny. See, let me come back to you. Chat question. Would we take Cincy down in a teaser to -1?
You could do that. I think there's probably better games to tease, but I don't mind moving them. I expect Cincinnati to win this game, but keep in mind, Air Carolina played Atlanta tough, and Atlanta's not a terrible team. And maybe, Carolina's in a bounce back spot to, very hungry for a win I would just go a different way from a teaser standpoint, but I don't mind that at all.
Let's not forget what Carolina did 2 weeks ago. Do we all remember what they did 2 weeks ago? 21-3 over the Bucs. 21-3 over the Bucs. You don't want to tease a game that team is competitive, and they've been very competitive the last 2 weeks. Way more competitive than Cincinnati has been. They just have. All right, Edwards, you're welcome. All right, now let's move on to game number 4 at 1 o'clock. I'm loving this show today, by the way. I don't know why. I'm just having a good time, and I love it. So Packers are laying 4. This one's hovered around 3.5. It's moved to 4 at Caesar Sportsbook. In Detroit, though, take on the lines. Total 49.5. And every Packers game that I look at now, I'm going to scream to the under because they drive me nuts how they play. As a brand, here's where we are. RJ White is on the Lions. When it was 3.5, gave it out on the Tuesday. Mega preview. You got to watch that every single week. Then Uncle Dave is on Michael Badgley over 1.5 field goals. That's at even money. And then Alex, going to start with you on this game. You are fading one of the quarterbacks. Who?
Yeah, I am, Coach. I'm fading Jared Goff under 23.5 completions. This may be my favorite prop of the week. I'll explain why. First off, it's just a big number for Goff. He's averaging 22.7 completions per game this season. Furthermore, Green Bay, they're the biggest run funnel, or one of the biggest run funnels in the NFL season. Their opponents are just choosing to run the ball against this Green Bay defense. A lot has to do with that because they just can't simply stop the run, and they have a good pass defense. Looking at Green Bay's defense, they're ranked 31st in rushing DVOA compared to 9th in passing DVOA. I just expect Detroit to lean heavily on the ground game. You're going to see a lot of Jamal Williams, a lot of DeAndre Swift in this matchup. On the other side, Coach, you alluded to this as well. Green Bay, they're the slowest team in the NFL. They burn more clock than any team in football. They average 31.3 seconds per play, which is longer than any team in the NFL. Also, if we look at the opposing quarterbacks that have faced Green Bay this season, only Tom Brady has thrown for over 24 completions. Opposing quarterbacks are only averaging 17.5 completions against this Green Bay defense. Furthermore, the game has a low spread, which I'm sure we're going to discuss here shortly. Green Bay does not blow out anyone because they run the football so much and because of how slow they play. That just invites a competitive game environment. To me, this is just such a home run, slam dunk prop. It's just going to take a Green Bay to get out to a very big lead and push Detroit to have to abandon the run, which I just think is very, very unlikely in order for this to go over. That's why I love Jared Goff under 23.5 passing completions.
Russ says it's 22.5. Is that a pass for you, or is that still cool with you?
I'd still play it there.
Okay. Very, very good. See, let me come over to you because A.J. Dillon is plus 320 anytime rushing touchdown. And we know when they get inside the 5, they take Aaron Jones out and they bring A.J. Dillon in. Do you like this?
It's a big number, and it might be a little bit bigger than expected for a reason. His usage has been down, and I'm not 100% sure, I could be wrong here, that he's fully healthy. I believe it was the last game where he did suffer what looked to be kind of some minor knee injury. I don't expect to see him on the field very much. We haven't seen his usage be very high the last few games. However, plus 320 is a nice number. So I think you're kind of playing a game of unknown with A.J. Dillon in this particular game, but I don't mind the number of plus 320. It's not something I would take, but I don't mind the number.
All right. Alex, right back to you. You see what's on the screen. Dobbs last week, he was really the only bright spot with that fantastic over-the-shoulder acrobatic touchdown catch for the Packers. His longest reception is at 19.5 minus 110.
Don't mind it. We're going to see the return of Allen Lazard, though. When he's been on the field, Coach, he's sort of served as the number one receiver for this Packers offense. Plus, they're just going to run the football so much. I just don't know how much passing volume there's going to be. I like Dobbs, but I would personally stay away just because I do think Lazard's going to be the focal point of the passing attack. And I just expect them to run the ball a ton on Detroit because Detroit's rush defense is just absolutely atrocious.
Which is why the maestro was on Aaron Jones on the morning show today, over 66.5 rushing yards. See how this all just flows together? Do you see how that works? By the way, Erica in the chat, she wants 2 over passing props for quarterbacks. I'll give you one right now. We're on PJ Walker from that Panthers game. Low, 184. We gave it out on Friday. I don't know where it is right now, but I think it's still in that neighborhood. So that's one, Erica. We'll get to the other one here in a second. So, Sia, let me come back over to you, because when you're looking at the total in this game, I just said it, that when you're playing so slow, the Lions, though, they've been an over machine. But do you think this is the day that we're looking at 17-14, 20-14, and it sails to the under?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think 49.5 is a little high, to your point. But again, this is a sort of a curated environment in Detroit, in the Dome. I do think there could be a bit of a back and forth in this game through both the running game and the passing game. So I would lean to the under. Not something I'm willing to take, but I would lean to the under there. I think you're right about that.
All right. Philip, Glenn in the chat, thank you very much. PJ Walker is at 191.5 around that right now. So it's certainly gone up. I don't know what Uncle Dave would play it to. He's not here today, but I still think 200 yards is too short the way that PJ Walker has been playing the last couple of weeks. So I would still play that at 191.5, to be honest with you. Jeffrey, we're going to get to the Seahawks game in just a little bit. All right. That's game number 4. There are 8 games today at 1 o'clock. So the 5th game, we have no plays as a brand on this game. Colts and the Patriots. New England laying 5, total 40.5. See, let's start with you. Last week, they won by exactly 5 against the Jets. The Colts, boy, they have all this turmoil, all this, who do we start at quarterback? Who are we going to play? We now know it's going to be Sam Ehlinger for the 2nd straight week. And in the morning show, I guess I kind of lied. In the morning show, we played Ehlinger, his over 28.5 rush yards. That was from R.J. White. Do you like the spread or the total 40.5?
I like the Patriots here. The total I'm staying away from. I like the Patriots here -5. I mean, you get a chance to game plan after seeing some film on Sam Ehlinger, and you don't even have Jonathan Taylor in the backfield. I think the Colts defense is pretty good. Their run defense is pretty good. So it's not like guys like Ramondre Stevenson. By the way, I don't think Damian Harris is active. So for fantasy purposes, make sure Ramondre Stevenson is in your lineup, probably your DFS lineups as well. But I think at the end of the day, we're going to see the Patriots beat up on the Colts and cover this 5-point spread.
Yeah, no Jonathan Taylor either today. So, Alex, where do these teams go to get the yards and to get the scores?
Yeah, as far as New England's concerned, I think we're just going to see a huge dose of Ramondre Stevenson. No Damian Harris in the backfield. We've seen, even with Harris on the field, Ramondre's asserted himself as the RB1 in that backfield. He's looked great. Really been impressed with his usage in the passing game and the receiving game as well. Showed off a very well-rounded skill set. Also like Jacoby Myers. He's been sort of the wide receiver 1 for this Patriots team. Not a high-volume passing attack, but when they do pass the ball, generally most targets go his way. They line him up all over the field. I expect him to have a good day. As far as the Colts offense is concerned, I think it's going to struggle against this New England defense, especially because they do a really good job of making one-dimensional offenses, just taking away what they do. So I think we're going to see Ehlinger struggle in this matchup. I do think the backup running back, Deion Jackson, I've been encouraged by his play when Jonathan Taylor's been off the field, which he has been a bit this season. So I expect him to be heavily involved, but I just think it's going to be tough for both of these offenses, in my opinion, to move the football. So not a lot of props I love in this game, Coach.
Ryan does have a question on that combo prop of Stevenson you were talking about, 102.5, -115.
It's a big number. I think it's highly efficient personally, so I'm staying away. I'd lean over on it slightly, but this is a very good Colts defense.
Okay. All right. Sometimes, and we say it all the time, but it bears repeating because our audience is growing by the day. Sometimes the best bet you make, stay away from some games. I know it's hard because I struggle with it too, but just stay away from certain games. Not this next one, though. Bills and the Jets. A robust 11-point spread on the road in the NFL. What? Total sitting at 46. R.J. White is on the under in this game, 47.5. Uncle Dave, Zach Wilson over 33.5 pass attempts. Over Tyler Conklin at 27.5 receiving yards. Sia, is this number against the Fighting Zach Wilsons just too high?
Well, not when you put it that way, because the Fighting Zach Wilsons doesn't really inspire a lot of hope, right? This is one of those tricky lines, and I got caught with this in a big spread in that Eagles game when we had I had a pick on the Eagles minus 13.5, and it just didn't get there. These are really big spreads. The Jets are just good enough defensively to get Josh Allen off the field and actually, bring on punt formation here and there. But at the end of the day, we are talking about Zach Wilson. Now, granted, the game where I had the Eagles, we were talking about Davis Mills. But, if we're comparing the two, and I don't think there's a real reason to, but just for the sake of argument, Davis Mills probably is the better quarterback than Zach Wilson at this point. Zach Wilson makes too many mistakes, and I honestly think he's going to be scared to make that mistake this week because of what happened last week. I think he's going to eat a lot of sacks. I think this Bills defense is really going to enjoy a pretty easy day. Keep in mind, there's no Breece Hall here either. It's going to be a tough time. Corey Davis is still injured. I would take the Bills here minus 10.5, but it is scary to take a double-digit spread, obviously.
Yeah, anytime that you, Alex, lose a dynamic player from an offense that can't afford to lose a dynamic player, it hurts them so much more. And when you got a defense like the Bills, and now they're adding weapons on offense, what? Hines, what? So where do we go from a prop perspective? Or, again, do we stay away? Because as you always teach us, if there's a game script that is going to be a blowout, then that can kill receiving props, yes?
Yeah, absolutely. Hard to get excited about much on this Jets offense, Coach. Sia mentioned Breece Hall has been absolutely sensational all season. I think his loss is just massive. He was really, in my opinion, the engine and the biggest reason why this Jets team was able to find so much success early in the season. I really think without him, they're going to really, really struggle. I think Zach Wilson's going to get exposed as well. Plus, there's a lot of injuries as far as that receiving group is concerned, especially when you have a guy like Elijah Moore not even able to kind of find his role on the team and all the off the field issues as well. As far as this Bills offense, they are humming, Coach. They look absolutely phenomenal. There are a lot of mouths to feed. This Jets defense is pretty good. Obviously, I think this Bills offense is just going to have their way with any defense in the NFL. So I expect them to be very efficient, hyper efficient, like we've seen. Plenty of big plays. I like Gabriel Davis in this matchup. I think we're going to see the rookie corner of the Jets, Sauce Gardner, who's been absolutely phenomenal. He's the favorite to win Defensive Rookie of the Year. I think we're going to see him matched up with Stephon Diggs in this. So I think we could see Gabriel Davis get loose for a big play or two. So I like Gabriel Davis in this matchup, whether it be his longest reception, potentially his anytime touchdown, and I think his receiving yards are low. Wouldn't shock me whatsoever if him and Josh Allen hook up for a big play or two.
And the one thing that you need to remember if you're watching at home, that as quarterbacks mature, and Josh Allen is now maturing, they no longer have to keep the gas pedal down. He doesn't care about all those stats, all those touchdowns. He cares about winning Super Bowls. And so that's why more and more we're playing the unders on the Bills games instead of just a lock to the over. But it takes a few games to get there. See ya, go.
So as I sit here trying to buy time so I can look up Tyler Conklin's receiving prop, I do want to point out that, I thought Tre'Davious White was going to be back this week, and it turns out he's not. But also Matt Milano has been declared out. That's a really big deal for that Bills defense, and it makes me a little squeamish about taking the Bills minus 10.5, to be perfectly honest with you. But for DFS purposes, that does open the middle of the field quite a bit. I think Tyler Conklin, if you want to pivot to Tyler Conklin, who's very low priced off popular like Evan Ingram or Foster Moreau in DFS, Tyler Conklin should suck up a lot of catches. I'm seeing his receiving yards prop is 27.5. I kind of like that. I'm likely to like his reception prop too, again, with Matt Milano out.
Yeah, and Uncle Dave gave that out on the Friday prop show, and it's still right there at 27.5. That is great nuggets that you guys are finding. And you're noticing as we cross the bottom of the hour, for those of you just dropping in right now, welcome. This is Early Edge Live. We do it every single Sunday at noon Eastern time. It's all about picks, yes, but it's about information. It's about DFS. We do it all, and we try to answer as many questions as we possibly can. Huton, I'll take that Josh Allen over 2.5 passing touchdowns. It just feeds into right what we were talking about. He doesn't just air it out anymore. They have a completely balanced offense, and so I wouldn't touch this with a 10-foot pole, especially when they could blow out the Jets today as well. Now, this next game, we know Sia's been really waiting for it. We see all the pictures in the background. We see the Commanders now potentially getting a new stadium. We see the Commanders turning on a positive road. They're at home today. They've looked good. A great come-from-behind win last week. But they're underdogs at home. Sia, Vikings favored by 3, total 43.5. And I'm not going to start with you, Sia, because Alex has 2 best bets in this game. But the maestro, who's live in the Big Easy, CBS Sports HQ. He's on the Vikings first quarter money line at minus 140, which means all they have to do is win the first quarter to cash that bet. And if they tie, it's a push. Alex, what do you like in this game?
Yeah, two props I love in this game, Coach. First up, I've got Terry McLaurin over 67.5 receiving yards. McLaurin has been red hot over the last 2 weeks. He's compiled 16 targets, 11 receptions, 186 receiving yards, gone over this prop in both those games. A lot of that has to do with, my opinion, Taylor Heineke at quarterback. He's taken over these 2 games. He's looked a lot better, in my opinion, than Carson Wentz. Furthermore, he just has a lot more chemistry with McLaurin. When they've been on the field together, we have 18 games over the sample size that they've played together. McLaurin averages 66 receiving yards to go with, just roughly under 8 targets per game. Now he gets to face a Vikings defense that are 28th in coverage grade. They're just a really good matchup. They've also been extremely generous to opposing number 1 wide receivers this season. According to Football Outsiders, the Vikings, they ranked 32nd in DVOA to opposing number 1 wide receivers. That bodes very well for Terry. The Vikings are surrendering 198 receiving yards per game to opposing wide receivers. That is the most in the NFL on a per game basis. Washington's just also dealing with a lot of injuries to their pass catchers. No Jahan Dotson. Logan Thomas is questionable. I think he's going to play. No J.D. McKissick. So I think there could be even extra targets up for grabs for Terry McLaurin in this matchup. I think this is great for him against this Vikings defense. I'd play it up to 69.5. I do think the 67 number is actually still available there. And then I also love me some Justin Jefferson. I like his anytime touchdown prop the most, though, when we're looking at all his different props. He's having a fantastic season. He's averaging over 100 receiving yards per game. I also think the Vikings in this matchup against the Commanders, they're going to air the ball out a little bit more than they have. I think just this Commanders defense, they're ranked 2nd in rushing DVOA. They've been very good against the rush, and they've struggled against the pass. So we look at the pass of least resistance. It's going to be through the air, in my opinion. If we look at all of Justin Jefferson's metrics, they just all jump off the chart. He's in the top 95th percentile on literally everything from air yards, yards per route run, yards per target, etc., etc. The one area that he's struggled this season has been his efficiency in the red zone. He's only catching 25% of his targets in the red zone. For his career, he's caught over 50% of his red zone targets. So he only has 2 touchdowns this season, Coach. In my opinion, he is due for some major touchdown regression. I think he's due for more touchdowns, and I think this is a great spot against the Commanders defense that's a lot softer through the air than on the ground. So I expect Justin Jefferson to be utilized in the red zone today. You could get this at plus 110 when I gave it out, which I think is really good value.
All right, very quickly on McLaurin, a lot of the chat, and also I just looked at my own book. It's at 71 now. You said you'd only play to 69. Yes?
Yeah, I'd pass at 71. I just think that's a little too rich.
Okay. See it. Let me come to you. At SportsLine, we have 4 picks on this game. 3 of them are on Washington plus the 3. Maestro, Brett Anderson, and Jeff Hockman. Tell me why they're all on Washington today.
Well, I think it's because they think the Vikings are largely fraudulent. We've seen what the Commanders have done with Taylor Heineke. He's not only kind of throwing it downfield to guys like Terry McLaurin, but he's also just inspired some confidence with the team in general. The defense has played a little bit better, but frankly, the defense hasn't really been challenged like they probably are going to get challenged by Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson. It's really easy to see Washington last week against Sam Ehlinger and say, hey, well, they played pretty well. They kind of shut the passing game down for the most part, and they're a good run defense as it is. I think Cousins is going to test this back end, and that's why, for me, this one is a stay away. I don't mind the Commanders plus 3, but honestly, I think the Vikings are largely fraudulent, let's be honest, but they are playing the Commanders, and they can this is a team that can expose the Commanders' major weakness, which is on the back end with Justin Jefferson, with Hawkinson, with Adam Thielen, those types. So I would stay away from this one personally.
And that is exactly why I love the McLaurin prop, because if the Vikings are going to play from in front the entire game, you know what Heineke's going to do. He's going to find McLaurin, and you get those late second quarter yards, and you get those late game yards. And that could be exactly what happens today, and we expect it to happen today. If you notice, I'm trying to incorporate a little more of the SportsLine cappers into our early edge shows. So you got to get an idea of what SportsLine is all about, because we want everybody to be a part of what we're doing. It's all about education, entertainment, and inclusion. So we want you here. Now, next game. And you both have best bets in this game. Last game at 1 o'clock, then 2 more at 4, then we're getting the hell out of Dodge. So Raiders laying 2.5 on the road at Jacksonville. Somebody in the chat said, anybody playing Jacksonville on the money line? Not this guy. So total sitting at 48. Sia, you and Alex have 2 picks that are very much aligned. Let me start with you.
Yeah, I love when I'm overlapping to some degree with Alex, because we don't talk about these props ahead of time for the Friday show. But I've got Travis Etienne over 76.5 rushing yards. That was at minus 125 when we gave it out on Friday's 4 o'clock prop show. He's hit this number in 3 games in a row. He's getting full-time work now that James Robinson is out. He's had 10, 14, and 24 carries over his last 3. His yards per carry over those 3, 8.6, 8.1, 6.5. He's also exploded with some plays with runs of 49, 49, 48, and 30. Those are the longest runs over the last 4. So I really like, especially against this Raiders defense who can give up explosive plays, I really like Travis Etienne. I certainly have a lean to his longest rush as well, but I'm going to go ahead and just take the 76.5 rushing yards over.
Which then we pivot to Alex. And Alex, you like Travis Etienne and you like fading. And as you like to say, not for the faint of heart. The floor is yours.
Yeah, so as far as Travis Etienne goes, I love his combination line. Also love Sia's play for his rushing yards. I gave out on the Friday show over 103.5 combined rushing and receiving yards. Sia mentioned this guy's just been absolutely dynamic. He's eclipsed this line in 4 consecutive games as well. Since taking over as the starting running back in this Jaguars backfield, he's averaging 140 scrimmage yards per game, 6.2 yards per carry. The Jaguars are also completely committed to him. He has an 81% snap share in week 7. Last week, he had a 79%. That's like Saquon Barkley territory as far as the touches go. So that's very, very encouraging. All the metrics have been phenomenal as well. He's second in rush yards over expected per attempt. He's third in success rate, 5th in breakaway percentage as well. Also, this Vegas defense, they're 18th in rushing DVOA. They could be beat on the ground as well. He's getting Etienne's getting 20 plus touches in this offense. He's just a big play machine waiting to happen. The reason I like the combination line here, though, is because Las Vegas are allowing 61 receiving yards per game to opposing running backs. That is the second most in the NFL. And with the type of big play ability that Etienne has, I like the combination line. Just gives me a little bit more security in the event that the Jaguars are playing from behind. I do still expect Etienne to be heavily involved in that scenario, and it'll be more of a pass catcher if they do trail. But I do expect him to have big plays across the field, whether it's running or catching the football. Love all the props as far as Etienne is concerned this week. Also love his longest rushing yards, as Sia mentioned as well. The other play I'm on in this game is Davante Adams. Coach mentioned this is not for the faint of heart. I am fading him this week under 6.5 receptions. I know that's scary. To me, this is a very big line for him. I really feel like it should be 5.5. Listen, Davante Adams is one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. No argument there. I just have not been very impressed with the way they're choosing to deploy him. They're just, instead of taking advantage of this guy's ability to run every single route, they just have him running go routes down the field. That's just not a recipe to get a lot of volume. They're just not ignoring his ability to get open over the middle and the short and intermediate routes, which to me just is not good for this offense. Furthermore, if we look at the Las Vegas Raiders, they've been most effective when they're running the football. I think they're going to see another run-heavy game plan against this Jaguars defense. I just don't think the passing volume is going to be there for Davante Adams this week. Derek Carr did not get the ball across the 50-yard line last week. He was so ineffective. Yes, that's how bad he was, Coach. So I just think they're going to struggle really throwing the football. They just have not been in sync whatsoever. I think we're going to continue to see a heavy game plan of Josh Jacobs. I just don't think we're going to see Carr air the ball out 35 plus times, which in my opinion, he'll need to do for Davante Adams to hit this prop. That's why I'm going under 6.5 receptions.
All right, very quickly, yes or no? You mentioned it. Josh Jacobs, his number is 101.5 combo. They're asking, do you like the under for the second week in a row?
I don't. I'd lean over on it, but it's a stay away from me.
All right. And you also heard Alex hit on ATN's longest rush, 17.5. He likes that as well. All right. Those are the 1 o'clock games. We got to quickly get through the 2 o'clock games, the 4 o'clock games, and then get the heck out of here. So we got to speed it up just a little bit, but it's been a phenomenal show. So many Chick-fil-A nuggets that you guys can take for this week and take it into the weeks to come. Seahawks, Cardinals, interesting in the desert. Cardinals, we haven't seen them in a minute. They're laying 1.5. Total 49. This is the only 4:05 game today. As a brand, RJ White had them in a teaser from Tuesday. Numbers have changed just a little bit. Seahawks plus the 8, the Saints plus the 9. And then Sia Najat, you have not 1, but 2 plays in this game. Enlighten us, sir.
Yeah, and I'll make it quick. I've got Rondale Moore over 41.5 receiving yards. He's surpassed his total in 3 out of the last 4 games. He's on the field a lot. His snap share has been increasing since he's been back, and he's running a lot of routes both on the outside and in the slot, in the inside, where the Seattle Seahawks have more trouble covering. So even though it's been a pretty good Seattle secondary, I really like Rondale Moore over 41.5 receiving yards. I think they are going to scheme him in space like they did last week. The other one I have is Ken Walker. This one's scary. Ken Walker under 73.5 rushing yards. We talked about that on the prop show. The number had actually gone up from 71.5 to 73.5 in the middle of our 4 o'clock prop show. That's when I decided I really like this under. Those 2 yards might be significant, but the rushing yards for Ken Walker, they've been really good. He's had some explosive runs kind of towards the end of games, which have really given him the overs in a lot of his rushing props. But last week, we saw that efficiency kind of come down, 18 rushes for 51 yards. I expect the efficiency to stay kind of middling, especially at Arizona. Now, Arizona gave up a ton of rushing yards last week, but I think at home, it's going to be a different story. And I think Ken Walker's efficiency is going to stay sort of in that middle range and stay just under that 73.5 rushing total.
Jeffrey said, see you going under for Walker. Going to need a towel around the neck all game, no doubt.
John Thompson style. I've got the John Thompson towel over the shoulder. That's what I'm going to be doing the entire game.
See, literally nobody knows who you're talking about. That's how sad that is. That's
Look
how
him up,
sad
everybody.
that is. Look him up. Legend. Now, Prop Stars, they're coming after you too. Prop Stars needs to get a deodorant sponsor with these sweaty fades today. No doubt about it. Now, the Cardinals, they've been a different team when you have Hopkins back in the lineup. Chat question, 81.5 receiving yards today. We saw his first game back, Alex. My man, Kyler Murray, wasted no time going at him. Talk to me.
Yeah, I think we're going to see more of the same. Kyler Murray's very comfortable throwing him the football, just seeing absolutely monster target shares for him when he's on the field. So I lean over on it. It is a big number, but I like Hopkins in this matchup. I do think he's going to continue to get big workloads. However, James Conner's back for the Cardinals. I do think they're going to try to implement a more balanced game plan if they possibly can. The Seattle rush defense actually isn't bad, but that's kind of been one of the Achilles heel for this Cardinals offense this season, Coach. It's been just not very balanced. I do think they're going to try to establish the run a bit more against Seattle today.
All right, very good. See, a lot of people are a little disappointed in you. They thought you'd say Tark from UNLV and not John Thompson. But
so I grew well.
It's from the DMV, Coach.
First of all, John Thompson is more of a legend than Tarkanian. Also, I grew up watching Georgetown Hoya games. I'm from the DC area. I got a chance to see Alonzo Mourning live, Dikembe Mutombo live, Allen Iverson live. The culture there back then was unbelievable. It's kind of dissipated a little bit, but we'll be back.
Oh, man. Georgetown and St. John's in the A's. I work with Chris Mullins. I wish you all could, pay money to sit for an hour and talk to Chris. I mean, the stories are legendary, and I got to work with him for several years. Love him. All right, last game on the board, gentlemen, then we got to get out of here. Don't forget, we'll be back tonight at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time, counting down to the Titans and the Chiefs live from Arrowhead. So, as a brand, we only have one play on this one, and it comes from Sia. Rams, Bucks laying 3 at home, total 42.5. Both teams need this game desperately. Sia, what do you like?
Yeah, make sure your notifications are on Twitter and all the other social media platforms for SportsLine, because this was actually tweeted out. A short video was tweeted out just maybe an hour ago, and it was this prop. It was Chris Godwin over 63.5 receiving yards. It might be 64.5, 65.5 some places, and I'm trying to remember when I tweeted it out. It might have been 64.5. Either way, even at 65.5, I think I like this prop. He is going to get peppered with targets. He surpassed this in 2 out of the last 3, and his target share continues to be very solid. He's gotten double-digit targets 4 out of his last 5. I really like Chris Godwin, especially, and I mentioned Jacob Gibbs. If you remember SportsLine, you probably read his article in terms of who gets advantageous coverage this week in terms of cover schemes that can be exploited. And it's the cover 3 scheme from the Rams. Godwin should get a lot of underneath stuff, and it'll be just enough to surpass the 64.5 receiving yard total.
All right, very good. I was remiss. We have not just one best bet, but my man AB in the chat just released another live official best bet. We're going to go Matthew Stafford over a half an interception, -120. There is something wrong with that arm. There is something wrong with that arm, and we've seen a lot of bad throws this year. I love this play at -120. Alex, let me come to you. Brady over 38.5 pass attempts today.
Fairly big number. I don't like it personally just because I do think the Rams are going to have to push the Bucs in order for him to go over that number. And I just have very minimal confidence in this Rams offense to generate enough offense of their own to push the Bucs into a pass-heavy game script.
All right. Very, very good. All right. That is going to do it for us. But as you guys know, AB, throw up the best bets onto the screen, and you guys can take a look. You still have about 9 minutes to get them all in. You don't have to play all of them. Just take the ones that you like or that fit into what you like. We just give you the information, and then hopefully you play with us. So as you know, I like to end every one of our shows asking my guys, what's the number one most important thing you're looking forward to today? You can use this information for today or moving into the future. Leave that up there. AB, see you start us off.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how these props play out in the DFS and the against the spreads slate. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to some of these big time teams like the Buffalo Bills. Are they going to put their foot down on the Jets, or are they going to just kind of play down to their competition to some degree? And who is going to play up? Who is going to step up? Like Tampa Bay, the Los Angeles Rams. Are either of those teams good? We might find out today. I have a feeling Tampa Bay is going to win and cover that game, but it would be very strange to see these teams continue to lose.
It is certainly a rubber meets the road type of game for a lot of teams today that if they lose, this season might be lost. Alex, go.
Coach, I'm looking forward to another week of the Travis Etienne show. This guy is one of the most dynamic playmakers in all of the NFL. Now we're seeing them take the reins off him, give him full 20 to 25 touches per game. I think it's going to result in a lot of yards. So absolutely love this guy. And I want to quickly just mention, I believe it was Erica, Coach, who asked for 2 quarterback props. We gave her one with PJ Walker from Dave from the Friday Prop Show. I also wanted to give her Kyler Murray. I like his passing yards over today. So there's your second one, Erica.
Little bonus for you. Now, Erica, apparently she doesn't live in the world of the media because she thinks 15 minutes, you got to get off the show to go get ready. If we have 30 seconds, that's all we need to shift from the show to the games. 15 minutes. 15 minutes. Lori says, awesome as always, guys. Thank you. See you at the window. I love meeting all of our fam at the window. All right, you've got our best bets. You have all of our props. Don't forget tonight, we'll have more best bets, more props. We'll have the gym. We'll have a donkey. We'll have a goose. And the entire crew live right here. Turn on those notifications as Sia just told you to do. And as always, there's only one thing left to do. And I believe you all know what that is. You've got your marching orders. Let's take all of the Sunday tickets straight to the pay window for my entire crew. Damn it, do I love them all. Prop stars, C and Najad, AB in the chat, also producing the show. That's why he's our 5-tool player. I am the coach. We love all of you, and do not think it is lost on us that you spend your time with us. It means the world to the entire crew at the Early Edge. Good luck.